Today's episode is brought to you in part by Liquid Death. Murder your thirst with 100% mountain water from the Alps, made by nature, not in a lab. Available both still or sparkling, Liquid Death is infinitely recyclable in tall boy cans, just like beer, and never in plastic. Get a case delivered to your house today at unitedweDrink.com/liquiddeath, and you can get a free koozie pack by using the code FREEKOOZIEAF. That's FREEKOOZIEAF at checkout. Just add any Liquid Death koozie pack to your cart, use the code, buy some water, and get these sweet-ass koozies for free with your thirst-murdering water. From Liquid Death at unitedwedrink.com/liquiddeath. Now enjoy the show. The opinions and statements in this podcast do not represent those of the host's employers, co-workers, family, or imaginary friends. Now enjoy the show.
Happy hour? More like amateur hour. Welcome to United We Drink.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast with the worst introductions into podcast history in the history of podcasts. You know, redundancy. Welcome to United We Drink right here on unitedwedrink.com, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and wherever fine podcasts are found. My name is Mike Urevich, and I'm beginning to think that sleep wasn't ever really a thing. It was just some fever dream that I had at one point, and that this is just life, that it always has been and always will be. And I am joined today by our first co-host, who has made Holy Shit, It's Only Wednesday kind of his own gimmick, Joel Codner.
HSIOW.
Holy shit, the last few weeks have really, like, when it hits Wednesday, I have been feeling that. And then I just go on Twitter and I see your tweet about it, and it makes me feel, you know, not any better. With us right now as well, and I better get this in before his call drops out, is our other co-host, Kevin Abbott.
Honor and a privilege, gentlemen, to be here with you. I have a timer on. It's been 1 minute and 25 seconds so far. I am still here. And I think I'm coming through. I think the recording's happening. My computer has not died. And it's honestly a low bar. It's a very low bar or a high bar. It's a low bar or a high bar, depending on what the analogy is. I don't really know. I'm either...
It's a foo bar.
Foo bar. It's that too. But I think it's a low bar that I have to step over. All I have to do is stay on a whole episode, and I've succeeded. I don't have to be funny. I don't have to be creative. I don't have to be interesting. Just be here. And that's what my goals are today. So let's fingers crossed, and let's take it one step at a time.
Yeah, on the day that we're recording this, Kevin had an appearance on John Hall's podcast, Think Beer, Drink Beer, or is it Drink Beer, Think Beer?
Drink Beer, Think Beer.
He made it through that one, so obviously he cares more about other people's podcasts than his own.
I have nothing to say to that.
That's an amazing observation. I listened to the entire thing while I was in the brew house today, and I didn't think once, like, oh, but then again, it very well may have been edited, and, you know, it might have taken 4 attempts for all we know, Mike.
Well, I mean, you started that sentence off, Joel, by saying, I listened to the whole thing, which is an accomplishment. There was a whole thing that Kevin was on. So, yeah.
I thought you were saying me listening to it was an accomplishment, which, you know, considering it's Kevin, you're right.
That is true.
Welcome to the roast of Kevin Abbott. Again,
this number 2. We did one for my bachelor party, so let's just keep it coming. Let's just throw caution to the wind.
4 times. We need to redo all previous roasts, and Joel still is due for even one roast.
Oh, man, I'm all for that.
Yeah, that's something that none of you really understand, but fuck it. Gentlemen, it's a special episode, so when I'm asking you what you're drinking tonight, it's going to become clear probably in just a bit. Kevin, what are you drinking tonight?
I am drinking two things. I am
As
drinking
always.
a cheap Pinot Grigio that I got from a grocery store. And I am drinking a Don Sergio Reposado tequila that is pretty good, that I picked up today. I'm a big tequila fan, and this is scratching my itch.
Nice. Still not a tequila fan on this side. And you've had me have try some of your Cuervo La Familia. That's the right name?
That is a very high-end tequila, yes.
That is probably the best tequila I've ever had. It's still tequila to me, and it's a little tough.
There's a flavor profile. I have it with brandy, cognac. There's something about even great cognac that I just don't care for the flavor of. I can say, oh, this is really good. It's well made, but not something I want to drink on a regular basis. So I can dig that when it comes to tequila. I mean, you're wrong, but you're okay to be wrong is what I'm saying.
All right, getting called out by the guy who can't stay on a show. Joel,
Cheers.
What are you drinking, sir?
So, I have the latest in a limited edition series from Glenmorangie. There you go. It's called A Tale of Winter. It's a 13-year single malt Scotch whiskey that is finished in Marcella wine casks from Sicily. I'm a big fan of Glenmorangie. I've got their previous release, A Tale of Cake, which was finished in some dessert wine casks, I believe. And this one's pretty cool. I guess it came out for winter. It's got kind of the ugly sweater labeling on it. It's real nice. Definitely some complexity going on in this one. It's honestly the least smooth of the Glenmorangie single malt scotches I've had, because there's just so much going on. There's a lot of kind of spice and wintry flavor character going on the back end. So it's real interesting. This is the second time I've opened this bottle. It's honestly makes no sense because I just got it recently, but it's slightly smoother than the last time I had it. There's definitely some burn on it.
One of you two got me a little Glenmorangie pack a few years ago for Christmas. Was that you, Kevin? Okay.
Pretty sure that was me.
It was a full bottle of regular Glenmorangie, and then it had like 2 or 3 small cask finish ones.
It probably had the sherry
Yes.
and the port, maybe.
Yes. Yeah, that was it.
Port's always been my favorite.
I love sherry cask stuff. Like, I don't know, like it's becoming my kind of my go-to thing. I don't remember if it was the last episode, if I was drinking minor case rye that aged in sherry cask, which is it was in my advent calendar of bourbons or whiskeys that I had this year that I fucking adored. And it is a relatively cheap bottle and it's delicious. And Angel's Envy sherry finished rye is delicious. So I'm just coming to learn that I like sherry finished whiskeys.
Which is the second time you've been wrong in this podcast, because sherry finished whiskeys are the worst whiskeys. They're second to urine cask finished whiskeys, which is the worst, obviously, but sherry's second worst.
I mean, but once
what if it was
they
urine from someone named Sherry?
Well, that's what you
Sherry
call a double
Van
whammy.
Winkle. It's actually very well sought after.
Or urine from drinking sherry.
A lot of options, guys. We have a lot of
So
options
many.
here.
Welcome to
Somewhere
United
in
We
there
Piss.
was one good joke.
I am drinking. I have 3 beverages. I guess I'm overtaking Kevin here. I have my can of Liquid Death, as I usually do. I have a can of Copper Point Lager, And I also have a little sipper I have here of a redemption bourbon that Kevin recently gave me as a belated birthday gift. Weeded bourbon at that. This is very tasty.
Is it good?
Bottle's half gone already.
Oh, I'm so happy. I didn't know anything about it other than the review and the description, and it sounded interesting.
Very smooth, very easy drinking. I really like it. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
So I am the only person drinking a beer tonight. And part of that is because we're going to talk tonight about burnout. Not the things that people with silly cars do in parking lots or intersections, but burnout on beer as people who work in the beer industry and drink beer somewhat regularly because they have to taste their product, they go and work events, they just get shifties, or they just like it. And this is something that can truly happen, and maybe is a good thing that it happens from time to time. So I'm going to start with the person. Oh, fuck. Now I'm screwed. I started this sentence as being like, let's go to the person who brought up this topic. And then I'm like, I don't remember which one of you brought up this topic. I think it's Kevin. So let's go to Kevin. Burnout on beer. You've been working in this industry longest out of the three of us. So I got to assume that this can happen quite often for you with the amount of time that you've spent around beer and working events around beer. What's it like? How does it come about to you? And how do you go about it?
Well, there's a couple things, and there's a couple ways I would take this. And when we were trying to come up with some show topics here, and I suggested it, there's the simple burnout of not wanting to drink a bunch of beer, right? The image of a brewer, of someone in this industry that goes on a vacation to, I go visit my dad in Michigan, or go out to San Francisco for a vacation, is that you're going to hit a bunch of breweries. You're going to want to go to every brewery possible because you want to drink every single beer and you want to meet people. And there's that, and just getting to the point where that's not your goal. You don't necessarily want to go to a bunch of breweries. You don't want to taste every new beer possible. You're not the guy. I've been the person sitting at a bottle share that I was not at voluntarily, that I just kind of stumbled into, and had a bunch of people walking up handing me really, really special, very rare, very sought after beers, and just thought, can you please leave me alone so I can drink my Pilsner or whatever it is in peace and talk to my friends? Because I don't really care about your special beer right now. It doesn't interest me. So there's that aspect of beer burnout. And then there's the other aspect, which I find interesting, in that, if you've been in this industry long enough, you have, and your loved one, thankfully no one that loves me will ever listen to this podcast, because let's be frank, they don't love me that much. But they give you beer gifts, right? You get things related to beer for every Christmas, every birthday, because it's the one thing they know about you. So you become the beer guy, and you're the beer guy at the party. So you have to bring the beer there, and everyone wants to talk about your business. So there's two ways to look at that. When it comes to the first one, I do drink a fair amount of beer, but on a regular basis, I'm drinking tequila, I'm drinking whiskey, I'm drinking a few mixed drinks here or there, an old-fashioned for good measure, a little spritz. We go spritz life sometimes, an Aperol spritz. And I kind of recharge the batteries by not having a ever-flowing river of beer into my gullet in that way. And it's pretty simple. It's a pretty simple fix. But it's when it's all around you and you've got tons of beer at the brewery and you got to try it all the time. Sometimes you get to the point where if I look at one more freaking malty beer or one more triple, I want to, blow my brains out.
And I think that a lot of that is understandable, especially coming from like drinking your own beer a lot over time, and especially if you're doing maybe sensory type stuff where you're getting shoved just new batch after new batch of the same thing over and over. Like you keep on getting a wit or a triple thrown at you at 9 o'clock in the morning, and you haven't even taken a sip of your coffee yet. It's frustrating. And then at the end of the day, you're like, yeah, I don't want to drink those beers. I don't want to drink any of these beers. So I can kind of understand that. Joel, you were really hyped on wanting to do this topic, so much so that you wanted to not do it at all. You wanted to have your son sit in on this because you were so burnt out on beer.
Well, no, what I said was, oh, we're talking beer burnout. I'll just take a break and go watch Eternals, which just debuted on Disney Plus tonight, and I'll let my kids come on the podcast and read my Twitter feed, because that's basically my beer burnout.
Disney Plus is not a sponsor of this show.
Yet.
Nice.
Will never be a sponsor of this show.
Not with that attitude.
Which is why I've always said, fuck Disney Plus. Is that what you were looking for?
So, sure, yes. Hot take. I like Book of Boba Fett so far. I haven't watched today's episode, but...
hot take?
A lot of people fucking hate the show. So apparently I'm a hot take for liking it.
Let's just do a whole episode about the fact that Star Wars isn't as good as everyone thinks it is. How about that?
That could be a good show. Find that on our Patreon.
But back
if we
to
ever
Joel
make one.
And
Joel.
His kids not sitting in for him tonight. What does beer burnout mean to you, Joel?
Man, many things. I definitely think you made some great points, Kevin. As far as traveling for beer, I think in my case, back in the day, I very selfishly chose certain things to do and places to go based on like, can I get beer there? Like, I remember leaving the state to go visit someone in the hospital, and I'm thinking like, how many fucking beer places can I visit on the way back? But that was quite a while ago, long before I was in the industry. I agree with kind of not caring about special beer. I think all of the hype chasing and waiting in lines is way behind me. Like I said on the last episode, I'm definitely down for, throwing my hat in the ring with that Hunapoo's Lotto this year. But, I'm not... If I forget because I'm doing something else, I won't be that bummed. Not that I don't want to, like, I love Cigar City and that beer, but if I miss it, I miss it. So I'm well past chasing things. People offer to send me beer all the time and do trades and shit like that, and I sometimes I just ignore it because I kind of don't want to do it. There are definitely some people who I owe some beer packages to and definitely want to reciprocate, but I'm just not, actively pursuing anything. The beer gifts are normally fucking stupid, from people who are not in beer. God forbid I get a fucking Mr. Beer kit. But I think it also... It's a weird topic because I'm definitely burnt out on beer. I mean, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I haven't had many beers on recent episodes, if at all. Usually it's just a lot of water and shit lately. But, I think that it's a weird topic for me to get into on this podcast because I don't want to convey the message that, like, just because I'm not as fervent, if that's the word, about beer now that, because Kevin is not only a friend, but my boss now. So I don't want to, come across like somehow my ability to do the job is lessened because I'm not, drinking 14 shift beers after every brew day. But, there's a lot of other stuff that factors into it. I mean, it's oversaturated. There's so much fucking beer, and I cannot stop thinking about how much quality has suffered. And I'm always the asshole for pointing it out, and I really don't care. I've even gone so far lately as to say that, a lot of my local scene is shit, and people don't like to hear that. And I'm not insulting anyone personally. I know that a lot of people we know work really, really hard, and sometimes it's just not that good. And that's the other thing. Like, it's hard for me to come up with a package to send other people when it's not like Kevin asked me a question today, like, would I be proud to serve this beer that we were all standing around trying? And I have that same thought when it comes to sending other people beer. Like, would I be proud to send this to someone else? And there are very few examples of local stuff that I can think of to stand by that comment. So, it's hard when your local scene isn't, as good as it should be after all these years and all this growth. Beer has just gotten super gimmicky and low quality. Like Kevin said on John Hall's podcast, like he'd love to just have a pale ale, and finding a high quality one from from not Dales or not Sierra Nevada is pretty fucking hard these days. Couple that with maybe a couple bad experiences working in the biz. You kind of it chips away at your morale a little bit about the whole shit. And then most of all for me is the health aspect. My relationship with beer had to change. I had a mild heart attack, and I was told I was allowed one drink a day. And that, I think they said, like 1 ounce of spirits, 1 glass of wine, or 1 beer per day max. And when in the beginning, I would go days and days and days without drinking anything, and then when I would drink, I'd be out somewhere and have like 4 drinks. So kind of playing the averages a little bit, but I'm easily having a few ounces of this scotch tonight, and I've already poured myself a little bit more, but it's fine. I mean, I definitely consider this moderation compared to what I used to do, but I've kind of gotten to the point where overall, and not just with beer, I kind of don't like the way alcohol makes me feel. I don't like feeling sluggish and unfocused and sloppy and shitty. It seems to be exacerbated a little bit more with beer because of how filling and carbonated it can be, and body wise, there can be a thickness to it at times, and sometimes a spirit like this will just kind of get me through and be good enough. But I honestly would just, if beer went away tomorrow, obviously I'd be out of a job, but also, I wouldn't be devastated because, I would gladly take weed or mushrooms.
By the way, weed and mushrooms are big sponsors of the podcast. So thank you for dropping that, Joel.
Legitimately, there's a company called Weed and Mushrooms, and they just sell mushrooms and grass. It's not even the narcotic thing.
But it's all delicious. Let's just say they're sponsors, so we have to make sure they let them know that it's great.
Yeah, so I
know that's a lot to digest.
I feel weird following that up because I was going to be a bit of a counterpoint to a lot of this. But Joel's point about the health aspect of things is something that I really can't counterpoint because it is a great valid point. I'm the only one drinking a beer tonight, and when this topic got brought up, it brought me back to a conversation, not even really a conversation. It was more of like a few passing things being said between two people that happened a few weeks ago. And I actually texted Joel about this when another brewery owner came into our place and seeing me as like a a new father and was like asking how things are going, and I was like, yeah, the beer's helping me get through. And he goes, "You still drink beer?" And I'm like, and I just kind of looked at him weird. He's like, "I don't even drink beer anymore. I don't even enjoy drinking beer anymore." This is a brewery owner saying this to me. And
That's not rare.
I know it's not. And this in lies the frustrating part to me is I get burnt out on beer as the industry. This industry burns me out. Beer itself doesn't, because there's so much to beer. There's so many different styles of beer that I can pick and choose what I want out of this category. If I don't want something hoppy, I can have my amber lager. I can have someone else's malty beer. If I'm tired of that, I can go have a hoppy pilsner, an IPA. I can go have a stout. I can have whatever I want because I'm an adult and I can choose to do these things. And also because I like beer. My Twitter handle says that I love beer. Like, beer is my drink of choice. It pretty much has been, and it still is. I don't enjoy going out and searching for stuff the way that I used to, but when I go to my local little indie grocery store, I'm like, "Oh, there's something new here. Let me take a look at it." And then if it doesn't interest me for that time, I put it down, and then I'll grab something that I want at that time. But I am always interested in some new things and seeing what's coming out. When I go on vacation, I don't build my vacations around breweries, but I definitely do like to go scope out other breweries and see what's going on there. I like to have their easy drinking beers. I like to have their flagship stuff. I like to see how beautiful their tasting rooms are or how their systems look. It's sightseeing to me, along with having a beverage that I enjoy having. I love bourbon. I love whiskey. Like, I know those are two in the same, but one is not the other, but whatever. I love whiskeys and I love gin. I like cocktails in general. But my fallback is always going to be beer because I enjoy beer. I don't get burnt out on beer, the beverage, too much. I will take breaks every now and then because it is for a health conscious thing that I'm like, all right, I'm gonna cut down for a little bit, but I also don't fill that in with something else alcoholic wise in the meantime. It's more of taking a break on alcohol. But I get burnt out on the shittiness of people in this industry, on the shadiness of people in this industry, and just the overall frustrations that we deal with from the day-to-day operation of running a production brewery that does distribution, dealing with the distributors, dealing with accounts, dealing with having an on-premise, dealing with so many different things. The industry burns me out on beer, not beer itself, because like I said, I can pick and choose when I want a particular beer out of that so that I don't really get burnt out on the liquid itself.
Well, Mike, I'll jump in there, and I appreciate you being a voice of reason. And I know that you're passionate about the industry. I know Joel's passionate about the beer that he makes, and I feel the same way. It's easy to get when you are in the industry, and it's not one thing; it's 1,000 things. It's death by 1,000 cuts, right? We're working with the industry. Joel's working about making the same beer over and over and over again. It's Wizard Wiz, Single, and Havana. There's not as much creativity as he would probably want, as I would want if I was in his position.
But I actually like that.
Well, great. I'm happy to hear it.
Yeah, I know Joel has said a number of times, he's like, hey, if we were Allagash, like, I'll make as much fucking white as you want me to. But
I'm just saying that there's a lot of ways you can be burned out here, right? And it's easy to kind of find the negatives, find the things that you don't like about the industry, or the things that are that run counterintuitively to your personality. And that's what this is really about, is the fact that everyone thinks I'm the beer guy and that I should love beer at all times. And the fact is that I love beer most of the time. I had a Dale's Pale Ale today for the first time in way too long and sat there drinking that beer in my office and went, man, this is a good beer. And really thinking about it and really, really enjoying it. Really enjoying it to an extent that most people who are craft beer geeks, I don't know that they enjoy that uber special beer that there was 100 bottles of and they got one and they sold their firstborn child for. I really enjoyed it, and I love that aspect of the brewing industry. I really enjoyed having conversations with other brewers. So I love this industry. I love the fact that we tapped a keg today that was from 2019, and we were having a conversation about whether or not, is this a good beer? Is this tasting really good? Are we proud of this? That's the question I asked Joel. Would you be proud to serve this? I love that aspect of my job. I love that aspect of my life. I really, really enjoy it. But there comes a time when you want something a little bit different, when the expectations from the outside world kind of come knocking on your door and you go, well, wait, I'm not just this all the time. And those are the things that kind of burn me out at the end of the day. And part of me does feel very, very passionate about everything we do. I had a long conversation and start to go back to these kind of things with Joel and I again, but talking about our upcoming can release. And we talked about, I drank one of our IPAs and one of our hazelnut vanilla brown ales, and I was talking about my thoughts about it and having a back and forth with the guys and saying, are we proud of this? Is this what we really want to do? What do you guys think about it? How can we make it better? I'd love to have that conversation every day. That's what I'm in this industry for. But on the regular, there comes a time where I get burned out of that conversation, or when someone I talk to, and this is going back to visiting the breweries aspect, and I feel bad about this, where someone goes, hey, I've invited you to my brewery and it's only 15 minutes away for the last 2 years and you've never come. And I have to go, I've got a 3-year-old. I don't get out very often. And when I do, I don't necessarily want to go to a brewery. I work at one. I want to try new beers. And if I have it and you bring it up, or, we do a little trade, I'd love to try it. I would really enjoy trying your beer. But I'm not in the position where I'm going to go out and seek those things out as much as I did 10 years ago. And it does make me feel sometimes like I'm a little bit out of the loop. And maybe I'm not as passionate as I should be, but it's all I have to give at this point.
I really get what you're saying there, because, I left production brewing 4.5 years ago to go work for a brew pub where I was for almost 3 years. And even though I was so excited to be doing my own thing and having control and not be distributing and worrying about all those hassles, it also really disconnected me from the industry, because there was really no reason for them to pay for me to go to CBC or GABF. It was brew pub life. So, it's just, you kind of hold the fort down and try to make the best beer you can and, do the occasional festival. But, we were in such a prime location and going through so much beer so fast that it didn't even make sense to do festivals, because we would just be giving it away for free when we could easily sell it in the tap room. So I got very disconnected from the industry in a way. And, aside from the occasional festival, the occasional pouring at a fellow brewery's anniversary or something like that, I really, because to me, my best, favorite beers and things like that, like when John Hall asked you on the podcast about, the question he asks everyone, if you could go through time and space, who would you have a drink with and where and all that, I thought about that, and I thought to myself, to me, my best, memories are really more about the experience than the beer itself. Obviously, great beer should be coupled with that, but, whether it's, like Mike, when we went to Portland and had fucking pints and pints of Pliny at some fucking dive bar or whatever that was.
It wasn't a dive bar, but I know.
Well, there was a lot of wood everywhere.
It was an like English pub that has Pliny.
Yeah. I mean, just fucking nonic pint after nonic pint of Pliny. I mean, come on, like that was awesome. That's one of my favorite beer memories.
Hanging out with Wayne Wambles
Right.
from Cigar City, and I think his name Danny from Magic Rock in England. Like, yeah, like
one of my absolute all-time favorite memories is 2016 Hop Harvest in the Yakima Valley, having lunch with Wayne Wambles of Cigar City, and being on edibles and listening to him shit all over hazy IPAs while we're eating local Mexican food. Fucking amazing. It was one of the greatest lunches of my life. But now I just, especially after the past couple of years of this fucking pandemic, I mean, I think we're all lacking those moments and opportunities. I think one other aspect of it is, we're so behind the scenes now. We know how the sausage is made. I know you guys are wrestling fans, so you'll appreciate this analogy. But like when I was into wrestling 20 years ago, I got so into it that I'm fucking not only watching every show, but I'm reading every website and blog about, all the behind the scenes shit that's going on there. And it's like
dirt sheets.
Right. And it's like, well, I know that The Undertaker really isn't dead. He's just got a groin injury, and that's why he's not in this episode.
Whoa. Don't do this. Don't break the facade. Joel, come on.
Undertaker's not dead?
Go ahead.
Next thing you're going to tell me is the dude's name is Mark or something.
But I just think when you're... It's like, pulling the curtain back and seeing the Wizard of Oz, and he's not some,
He's
omniscient power. He's just some jerk off with a lot of special effects. And that, that translates to my average beer buying experience. So when I go to the liquor store and I see a friend's beer on the shelf, I'm like, oh, that's cool. They're canning. I didn't know that. And then I think, well, I've been in the back there and I sure as shit know they're not fucking pasteurizing or, whatever. So, I know there's no lab there that, and then I grab the can off the shelf and it feels rock solid as if it's about to burst. Those are all, like Kevin said, death by 1,000 cuts. The one counterpoint I will have to something Kevin said earlier is I actually really enjoy talking about working in the industry with outsiders, because for the longest time I was stuck in cubicle hell, and I would actively avoid social situations many times simply because I didn't have anything good to say about me. I wouldn't want to go to my wife's company's Christmas party because I just know that people she worked with would be like, oh, so what do you do? And I would have no good answer. And I wasn't creative enough to make up some bullshit like, I invented, some little, like in the movie My Blue Heaven, when they're like, oh, this is so-and-so, he invented that little rotary valve on the fucking mechanical heart transplant thing, whatever that was. Like, I couldn't come up with shit like that, because I was so miserable. So, but now, like, I go to my doctor and she's like, oh, I've been to Barrel of Monks. I really like it there. We had a good time. And, like you see people's eyes light up when you tell them that's what you do for a living. It's so foreign to them. They can't believe it. It's not something they encounter every day. Not to say that, we're fucking magicians or anything, but, it is cool to see people actually take an interest in what you do instead of just saying, oh yeah, I work for some fucking company doing data entry. Like, no one cares about that. But so for the past decade now, it's actually been fun to tell people I do something cool for a living.
I agree with you, Joel. I kind of feel the same way. I like talking about what I do for a living with most people who are not, and friends or colleagues, like complete strangers is a little different, but like I like it for the most part, except for talking to my brother-in-law about it because he feels like he just knows the answer to everything. And he's like, well, why don't you do this? Like, that's not how it works, bud. But
have you guys considered making Bud Light? Because that seems to be popular.
I feel like I've probably been told that by him before. But ultimately, I think the thing that comes down to it, and I kind of glazed over that whole conversation with another brewery owner. I didn't really get to my point. I moved on too quickly. I was like, yeah, I still drink beer. Like, I enjoy drinking beer. I enjoy drinking my beer because I like the beer. I'm proud of the beer that I make. I enjoy trying other people's beer. I go to your brewery and drink your beers because I think that you make some good beers. And you won't even say, like, I don't even like drinking my own beer. Why the fuck are you even doing this other than a money grab at this point? And, you know, this is something that I struggle with kind of a lot in this industry. And not just in this industry, in life in general, is I feel like I maybe romanticize things a bit. And I want them to be my passion. I want them to be something that I am good at, that I am recognized for being good at. And I want to know, understand, and do those things very well. When I was a musician, I wanted to fucking write albums. I wanted to tour. I wanted to be music. I wanted to be the best that I could be in that. And with beer too, I kind of romanticize this a bit, and as this like artistic thing is like, I want to make great beer. I want to make great art associated with that beer, whether that be labels, photography, words, copy that goes along with it. And so it's maybe a little bit deeper for me in this weird way, because and it's not just that, it's life in general. I've always kind of been a little bit of a romantic, and like I want to consume the things that I love wholly and try to be the best at them that I can be. And with beer, it's definitely that. Like, I want to make good beer. I want to sell good beer. I want to present good beer. I want to talk about good beer. Just when I see, like I said, going back, my burnout happens when I see people putting out dangerous stuff, putting out shitty stuff that is just bad, technically flawed. People who don't care, who don't even have style guidelines right, and are just don't even care about what the style that they're putting out is and presentation. It's just, that stuff bugs me, because the industry burns me out, but the liquid will always make me feel creative and make me feel happy and make me feel like I can do something and create something and not be fully taken out of it. So,
well, listen, amen, brother. I mean, listen, I think that I think that the idea of being burnt out does not mean that you aren't passionate. Does not mean that you don't. In fact, I think it is exactly what happens when you are passionate, when you care about what you do, when it becomes an all-consuming thing in your life. Because at the end of the day, what we all do is work, right? Yeah. We physically work, we mentally work, we go and we, especially in Joel's position right now, he abuses his body. He runs up and down steps. He does work. And a lot of people from the outside don't realize the effort physically that goes into the job. And Mike, you're doing that as well. You're working in the brewery. You're doing stuff mentally that will tax you, and you bring it home and you fall asleep dreaming about it and frustrated and worried about it. This is work. This is our jobs. just like everybody else's job. And it's easy to be negative about it or be frustrated with it and be burnt out by it. But at the end of the day, I think this podcast is not a negative thing. Even the concept is not negative. It's a love letter to the industry. It's the thing that we love about it is the thing that keeps us coming back to it. We love the liquid that we make. We love the beer. When I can sit there and drink somebody else's beer that's commercially available at a local grocery store and get excited about it because I know how much love, care, and attention went into it, that renews my love for the industry. When I can drink a beer that Joel made and say, I had nothing to do with this. I didn't write a recipe. I didn't have anything to do with it. It's great. I'm proud of it. This is amazing. That renews your love for the industry. But you don't have to be in it at all times, and it doesn't have to be all-encompassing. I'm probably not going to go visit the brewery that opened up 20 minutes from my house tomorrow because I got other things in my life that take priority. We're not 20 anymore. We're not traders anymore. We're not sitting there chasing the next beer anymore. And that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. But it's easy to feel alienated by those things because we used to be those people that used to live and breathe this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But in a good way, we've moved on from that. And it's okay to vent and be a little bit frustrated from time to time. And part of this podcast was just that. I feel like it was a healthy conversation that we had with the beer industry tonight.
It was a healthy conversation with 3 unhealthy personalities.
By the way, 45 minutes, guys. 45 minutes I've been on this call. I still got 100% battery life. I am here. I am here with you. It is not going to change. Got you.
What an achievement.
Yeah, I know. Low bar, guys. Low bar. But
Give this man an award.
Or went under it or whatever you do with it.
Well, if I can say one last thing, I think I definitely agree with you that it comes from a place of being passionate. And I honestly hate that word because I feel like it gets co-opted and abused.
Oh, yeah.
And
for sure.
People... What's that?
For sure, it does.
Yeah,
but just leave it to Joel to hate the word passion. I'm sorry, Joel. Please go ahead.
No, it's not
I love
the
you,
word
man.
itself. It's the context in which it's used, and most of the time, it's the idea that people get into the industry because of that, not realizing it's work. It's everything that you don't see on Instagram. So, and I think the burnout can also come from a place of disappointment, like I talked about earlier with the oversaturation, the lack of quality. I mean, we've said many times on this podcast, the only thing you need to open a brewery is a fucking checkbook. So, when you are doing everything you possibly can to make the best beer you possibly can, and not to say that it actually is better than anything else, because that's not what I'm saying, but it's very easy to get frustrated when you see the lack of quality and the lack of imagination. And I saw some IP theft earlier this evening where these fuckers put Betty White's face on the label of their beer, and it's like, you're just trying to capitalize on, current news and use someone else's likeness for profit. And I would think that her estate and lawyers have something to say about that. And I even commented, just because she's dead doesn't mean you're allowed to use her likeness for profit. And they fucking deleted that comment real quick. So it's like doubling down on being an unimaginative, unethical shithead. And let's be honest, when we all started drinking beer, I'm pretty sure each of us in some way, and many people listening, got indoctrinated into craft beer as higher quality, supporting local, more ethical, supporting local business and local people and da-da-da. I mean, fucking people who work at Budweiser are local to somewhere. They are your fellow Americans, are they not? So, we all kind of got indoctrinated into this thing thinking we're part of something bigger and better and higher and more purposeful and ethical. And then, you see shit like this. So, it's kind of a disappointment in a way. Like, maybe you were lied to a little bit, or maybe the industry doesn't hold itself up to the standard it claims to have.
You hit a lot of great points there, and it did a little bit remind me of that one commercial AB did with like, we're your biggest local brewery.
We could do a whole episode on what Joel just talked about.
Oh yeah, sure.
It's called a spin-off, I believe. It's the Joey to our friends.
It's the Book of Boba Fett.
The prequel?
It's spin-off.
I guess it was a prequel to something. I mean, that's so much. Let's just do a whole Star Wars thing, guys. Let's do it.
All right. Fuck beer. So George Lucas is a person. Now, Joel, like, absolutely kudos. Yes to pretty much everything you said there. Yeah, people forget about the people who are locals, who work at those places. And, I don't want to get off too much on the tangent, but I do want to know who you're talking about after the episode with the Betty White thing. But
you guys are friends, right? You can talk about this off air, or is that not happening?
I think I have his phone number.
Good.
I think. But I saw
it's fucking three. They're called Three Punk. They're out of California. They're cunts.
Okay.
Feel free to edit that out. I don't care. What are they going to do? Fight me? That's bullshit. I mean, look, not to get off on a tangent, we got to wrap this episode up, but I've said this before. Like, it's the hashtag craft beer circle jerk. Like, nobody is holding anybody else to the higher standard we all claim to have.
Yeah. This is true. And that's predominantly why I have gotten myself out of using the term craft beer.
Same shit happened right after Burt Reynolds died, and this was right around the time of Brute IPAs coming out, and someone put out Brute Reynolds with the photo of his Playgirl magazine cover on their beer label. So, like, now you're just trying to get sued by multiple entities.
Yeah. So on that bombshell, beer burnout can be a thing on many different levels.
We all get frustrated with many different aspects of our industry at many different times.
Should we redo the IP episode with Kevin now that Kevin's on the show? Because we did it with Phil, and Phil was terrible at it.
Sorry, Phil.
No, Phil stuck up for a lot of it, which I feel like Kevin would too. So, be beating a dead horse.
I stole some IP in my life.
All right. Anything else that Kevin you want to add to this before we move on at all?
No, I think we've covered this. I just want to make sure that everyone understands this is coming from a point of positivity. We all work in the industry. We all love what we do to a certain extent, and it wavers from day to day, hour to hour. I mean, we have hard days. We have times where we're a little more frustrated with what we do than what we were an hour ago. But when we look at things in the totality of it, we love what we do. We are passionate about the beer that we make, but it does not stop the fact that we get annoyed at some of the minutia of it, and that's fine. That's normal. But the one big bonus is we do get to have something to show for it at the end of the day. A beer that we like, a beer that whether it's one beer or 20 beers that we're passionate about that we made, we get to drink it and go, we did that. We had some small part in doing that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Joel, you want the last word here?
I just think, we wouldn't be burnt out if we didn't care. And, I think a lot of people in the industry would have a problem with several of the last few things I said. But, it's certainly not a competition or anything. I just think that, you should stand your ground. And, a lot of sensitive people will say it's being gatekeepery or whatever, like, let people do what they want. And it's, I subscribe to that a little bit too, because I think in a way the pieces will kind of fall where they may and things will kind of naturally work themselves out. But, then again, Betty White is dead and Dick Cheney is not. So what do you do with that?
What do you do with that?
Can that be the title? Can that be the title of the episode?
What do you do with that?
No. Betty White is dead and Dick Cheney is not. Can that? I mean, it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but somehow it has everything to do with what we're talking about.
The metadata might help with the promotion of the show and the algorithm of everything in the world.
People
Matrix.
that love TV, people that love politics, people that love the Gulf War. Tons of people will pick up on this podcast and just run with it, guys. Just run with it.
All right. I think it's now time to head into last calls, point in the show where Kevin hates that we all get an unspecific amount of time to voice our opinions on whatever we want, unopposed, unobjected, for whatever we want to. He really wants to have an episode where he gets to respond to last calls. If you think that we should do that, say something to us on Twitter at United We Drink.
We should do an episode every week we don't have an episode where I just respond to last calls.
We tried to do something like that before, but it was way too time consuming. If you want to do that on your own, go for it and just send me the audio.
You know what? I've spoke too soon. I've bitten off more than I can chew. Who's going first on this?
Kevin should go back to every episode he wasn't a part of and record reactions to all those last calls. Reactions are very big on YouTube and shit. This is something we should do.
We still get Kevin's reactions to just the topics we were talking about on episodes that he dropped out on.
We can do some Mystery Science Theater 3000 kind of stuff where the audio is playing in the background and I comment on it in witty and amazing ways. I'm not funny, witty, or amazing, but at some point, it'll be listenable.
We'll get there.
Oh, yeah. At some point. I mean, with enough practice.
Joel, why don't you start things off?
Oh, man. Not to be any more of a downer, but we lost the great Bob Saget this week. And it's really shocking because I just talked about this a few months ago, and he was just eulogizing his very good friend, Norm Macdonald, who we lost in September. I mean, that was only 4 months ago in 2 days from now. So, 65 years old. And, there's this Bukowski quote that I really liked. I think I've got it right here on my phone. Give me 1 second. Well, I think I can recite it from memory. He says, "I've had so many knives stuck in me that when they hand me a flower, I don't even recognize it. It takes time." And what that means is that, I've generally dealt with mean, shitty people, and when someone is nice to you, it's sort of jarring, like it's sort of hard to accept. And I can relate to that very much, but in the case of Bob Saget, it's not that easy because I had the opportunity to speak to him. He did something a little over a year ago where he put out a phone number online and said, "Hey, I'm calling people, just to chat and shit. This was like one of those like, mid-pandemic things a lot of people were doing. And, he puts out this phone number. It was on a Friday. He says, hey, call me on this Friday and leave a message and just tell me, who you are and how you know me or whatever. And I'll try to call you back. So I called the number and I left a message and I, said I've known you since fucking 5th grade elementary school when America's Funniest Home Videos came out. And, how much I appreciated his dark humor in such an oversensitive time. I mean, everyone knew him as sort of a comedian's comedian, that he was the fucking polar opposite of the Danny Tanner character on Full House. So, I got to see him live at the Palm Beach Improv, which was incredible. And I got to talk. So I was working at another brewery and I made this call on a Friday. The whole weekend goes by. I completely forget all about it. And then I'm moving kegs into the walk-in the following Monday and my phone rings and it's a number I don't recognize. And normally I don't answer those. And if I do answer them, it's because I'm in the mood to like fuck with some sort of telemarketer or robocaller or whoever it is and fucking waste their time. So I answer this call and I say hello and they go, Joel? And I say, yeah. And he goes, it's Bob Saget. And I lose my fucking mind. I'm like, holy shit, Bob. I couldn't believe it. I had forgotten all about it and it was doubly a shock to me. And when people have an interaction with a celebrity, they see someone famous. I mean, how long does that actually last? 30 seconds, maybe a minute. You say hello, hopefully get an autograph, a picture, something like that. Get a minute to tell them, if you're a big fan, like what they mean to you. I talked to Bob Saget for almost 11 minutes. It felt like a lifetime. And he was, without a doubt, the sweetest, most genuine, heartfelt, thoughtful stranger I've ever talked to. I couldn't believe it. Every time I thought, he's going to try to wrap up and close out and end the call, he would just be like, so, what's going on? Like, how are you dealing with the pandemic? How's your family? Shit like that. What do you do for a living? He genuinely seemed to care, and it comes through in every tribute that has been posted online from people who knew him the best. Without a doubt, everything they said about him was true, and it goes back to that Bukowski quote I mentioned, because most of the time, it's jarring for me to encounter nice people and accept it at face value, but there was something about talking to him that truly felt real, and that the person I'm speaking to is actually the person he is. And I saw this tweet that said, it was a picture of him and it said, why is it that every time a comedian dies, it feels like there's a little less light in the world? And I totally agree with that sentiment. I always get very upset when we lose comedians because they're like heroes to me. But in the case of Bob Saget, I don't feel like it totally applies because of the light he left with me. I've been thinking about that call with him every day since he passed a few days ago, and I truly feel like he left an impression on me and that it made me want to be nicer to people. And I know that runs totally contrary to me just calling a brewery I don't know a bunch of cunts, but
you're a complex individual.
But I feel like he put out so much light in this world that he left it burning bright. Like we got something special from him, and he made such an impression on me and so many other people that I'm just so grateful for having a few minutes to talk to him, and I'm totally changed for it.
Here to Bob. I'm gonna jump in just because quasi connection. Bob Saget's a Philadelphia man, born in Philadelphia, attended high school, college in Philadelphia. And I want to just give a little shout out to a man who many people probably listening to this don't know unless you're from the Philadelphia area, and that's a gentleman by the name of Jim Gardner. He was, and still is, a newscaster for 6ABC in Philadelphia, the ABC affiliate. 45 years this man anchored the 11 p.m. news and the 6 p.m. news on WPVI TV in Philadelphia, and he just had his final 11 p.m. broadcast the other day, and he is going to be wrapping up his 6 p.m. shifts at the end of this year. The dude is the epitome of when I think of like an anchor for news. Action news, as they are ABC 6 referred to in the Philadelphia area, is in 85% of households up there. It is like a part of the culture, and the guy's voice and his face will always be a part of my life. And I wish him a happy retirement, at least for the later part of his evenings, and hope that he can get some sleep. And then by the end of the year, when he fully retires from 46 years of service in the greater Philadelphia area, that he gets to spend some time with all of the people that he loves, and knows that he left an impression on a lot of people in his time behind that desk. And yeah, just kudos to you. Happy trails. Cheers to Jim Gardner. Kev?
A lot of emotion here, guys, that I have to follow, which I don't envy. But I will say this, Joel, you and I, let's talk about Charles Bukowski and Bob Saget over beers, whiskey, or sparkling water forever, because I can do that.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I'm all for that. We talked about our burnout in the beer industry earlier tonight, on this call. By the way, I've been on for over an hour, and I'm still here. So you're welcome, everyone. But we have talked about this, and one thing that never burns me out, and one thing that always renews my vigor for this industry, is the people we meet, right? The people on this call, on this podcast, are two great friends of mine who I met in the beer industry. The people who work at the brewery that I mostly oversee, Barrel of Monks, are amazing, intelligent, wonderful people who are working their asses off every freaking day for me, for my partners, for themselves, to make great beer, for their own pride and joy in the industry. So let's not lose focus of that, as Joel was talking about, with the fact that the Anheuser-Busch people employ people locally to do the job and to make their beer. There are great people all over the place that we're meeting every day, and it is one of the benefits of being in this industry that we get to know these people, that we get to give opportunities to these people to do something that they really enjoy. And while I might get burnt out from time to time and not want to talk about beer, or get annoyed because someone gave me a beer present, or get annoyed because someone says, "Why haven't you come to my brewery yet?" There's someone going, "Man, I would give my left leg to be in this industry, to have just a little bit of creativity, to make something that I love, to go to work, and at the end of the day," well, we know it's like, 2 to 3 weeks later, but still, have something, a product that they can drink and enjoy and love. And in our industry, we get a chance to do that. And there are people at our breweries that get a chance to do that. And that's wonderful. And I think, as I said earlier, this is a love letter to the brewery, a love letter to the industry, even though we sometimes get a little bit frustrated.
Love letters can be written in blood.
Things get dark near the end. Always. As Mike slams the rest of his liquid death.
Kevin, anything you want to plug before we shove off here?
Nope.
No.
No, not this time. I'll plug
right.
things next time.
Joel,
I don't
you
deserve
gonna
to
plug
plug
the things
things
that Kevin would normally plug?
Absolutely. Kevin has neglected to mention that by the time this podcast airs, we will have just released 3 new beers at Barrel of Monks in cans, Simulated Summer Session IPA with Citrus, Strata, and Cashmere. As I posted yesterday online, that hop plus that hop plus that hop is straight peach, and I love it. Had one last night and really enjoyed it. We will have Hazelnut Vanilla Double, which is hazelnut. A lot of times we say, like, well, does this flavor punch you in the face? And the Hazelnut Vanilla Double punches you in the face, kicks you in the balls, takes your lunch money, and fucks your mom. That is also on the label, if I recall correctly. I could be wrong.
TTB didn't love it, but yes.
And our 3 Fates triple in cans for the first time. So all exciting stuff. Come to Barrel of Monks, get some beers, have some fun. You probably already know I am Joel Brews on Twitter and Florida DUH Brewer on Instagram. Maybe I might post again on egg symmetry, all of my OCD reorganization of remaining eggs in open cartons, but who knows?
Who knows? You can follow me at Mike Loves Beer on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow the company that I work for, Copper Point Brewing, on those platforms as well. We're Copper Point Brew on Twitter, Copper Point Brewing Company on Instagram. Trust me, I wish our name wasn't that long on Instagram. Taking some pictures that I really like recently on there. So go check those out, like those, and help us on the algorithm, because the fucking algorithm on Instagram sucks right now. But you can also follow the show at United We Drink on Twitter, at United We Drink Pod on Instagram. We're on all of the major podcast streaming services, pretty much across the globe. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Podnods, a new service that I've found out about in the last few months that is our number 2 service that people listen to us on. Hey, people. Overcast, Ghana, a big podcast service in India. We have a lot of people who listen to us in India, apparently. Hi, thank you. Say hi to us on social media. Would love to know more about people who listen to us in another country. And if you want to support the show monetarily, financially, with just a little bit of effort, we have a ton of awesome sponsors on our website at unitedwedrink.com/sponsors, such as Liquid Death, Death Wish Coffee, the American Home Brewers Association, Wink Wine, Beer Drop, stuff on there that we believe in and we believe that our listeners would like. So go check those things out. If you make a purchase through those links, they help the show out. We also have a store where you can get shirts, buttons, stickers, tote bags, coffee mugs, so many other things at unitedwedrink.com/store. I say that 2022 is going to be the year of me hawking fucking shit and trying to get you to buy stuff from us so that we don't have to pay for our hosting. That's all I care about, because I fucking hate telling these guys that they owe me money on the first of every month. By the way, you guys owe me money. So
Are we
if
getting money
anything,
from
just
sponsors?
prevent me from having to text these guys about money.
Can't you find another company with death in their name to sponsor us? We have like 6 of them.
Death Wish Coffee.
Yeah.
That's what I just said.
Just go buy stuff through them and you'll fucking help us out. You can do it too, Kevin. But other than that, just tell these guys to set a reminder on their phones to pay me on the first of each month. And that just keeps on going until you guys buy stuff from us more often. Other than that, thank you everyone for listening. Hope that we're getting into the new year just fine. I know that the last time that we recorded it was still 2021, but came out in 2022. But Happy New Year. And let's try to make this year a little bit better. Probably won't be, but you know what? Just try to make your life any better than how you can. Just keep on keeping on. Catch you all next time. Cheers.
Cheers.
I made it the whole show.
But it won't upload.